This voter registration training is brought to you by the NAACP Louisville Branch. The purpose of this training video is to aid and assist all volunteers who are implementing voter registration drives within Jefferson County. The objectives of any voter registration drive, of course, is to register people to vote. But obviously, we want to take that time to encourage people to vote. And also, we want to provide voter information because there's plenty of individuals who may have a few questions other than registering to vote. And we want to make sure that we provide that information. This video, I'll be giving information on all three of these objectives, and I'll also be sharing some of the tips, some tricks of the trade in regards to meeting these and fulfilling these objectives. First things first, in terms of registering people to vote, this may sound silly, but you want to engage people. The reason why I say this is because I've seen in the past where individuals will set up a table in the corner on the side of a hallway of a high traffic area with no signage and with absolutely no engagement. People will not know why you are there. This is one of the reasons why signage is important, but also, when people are walking by, they're not going to go out of their way to figure out who you are and what you're doing there. So it's okay to try to establish some eye contact, ask individuals some very straightforward questions. Are you registered to vote? If they are not, ask them if they are willing to register to vote. Of course, there are some people who will say no, and that's fine. But for those who are willing to register, the next thing that you would want to do is you would want to provide a voter registration card, which would look like so. I want to go through this card. What you'll notice is what's highlighted is really what we need individuals to fill out. And so let's walk through this card to have an understanding of what needs to be filled out for voter registration. Very first, at the top, anyone who wants to register to vote in the United States of America has to be a citizen of the United States of America. So they have to check yes there in order to vote. Also, there is an age requirement. So you have to be at least 18 years of age before or on the day of the election day. So that is very important. They have to be of age. This next section actually opens up multiple reasons of why someone would fill out this card. Obviously, if someone's never registered to vote, you want them to check the new registration box, and that will make sure that the county clerk's office knows exactly how to process this card. There are scenarios, and this is very important, in which a member is already registered, but they've recently moved. And so even if a person says they're registered, ask them if it's up to date. Ask them if their address is up to date and they're registered in their current location. That is important because if you show up to a polling place that you're registered to be at that polling place, but you have actually a new address, which is in a totally different county, different state, or a different district, that becomes a problem. That can also constitute as voter fraud. We don't want any of these issues or any of these problems for a person who shows up to the polling place. Very importantly, you also want to ask them that their driver's license is up to date as well. That way you can prevent any issues at their polling place. Another reason to fill out this card is if they want to change their party. So if they are a Democrat and they want to become a Republican, or a Republican and want to become a Democrat, there is a section within here in which they can make that determination. If a person has changed their name, possibly due to getting married, you want to make sure that they fill out this card with their new name so that it's up to date when they get to the polling place. That way, those who are working at the polling place can clearly identify who the person is and make sure that they have their opportunity to vote. The next highlighted area that you see is Social Security number. This is not required to be filled out. I repeat, this is not required, but we do recommend that individuals fill this out because it helps the offices to know exactly who they are registering. Again, we want to make sure this is as accurate as possible. If a person says, I don't feel comfortable filling that out, tell them that is okay. And feel free to ask them to fill out the rest of the information. In terms of the date of birth, we need that, and we need that available in the format that's given. so that they can identify people appropriately. This next one is county. A lot of people will misread this upon first seeing it, and they will say country. And so you'll find people putting in USA or United States of America. Make sure that when you point this out that they put the county, Jefferson County, within there. One of the things I will say is that when you get this card back from someone who fills it out, make sure that you check it. All of these areas that are highlighted to make sure it's filled out okay. Home phone. I want to state that a person may not have a home phone, so this is obviously not required, but we do ask that they fill this out for a couple of reasons, but primarily if there's anything on this card that's illegible or anything that needs to be clarified, at least we can call an individual and make sure that the card is filled out correctly. That is one key reason among many. Next is the sex determination. If they are male or female, the state requires this because they do reporting in terms of voter turnout based on sex. Aside from that, there's obviously the last name, first name, middle name. That makes sense. The address. Make sure they fill out the address where they live. Not the P.O. Box office, but where they live. Again, we kind of mentioned addresses. You want to make sure that they have the address where they live because that identifies their polling place. That also identifies their districts and which seats they can actually vote for. So make sure that they put in where they live and not a P.O. Box office. Of course, there's apartment if that's applicable, city, zip code. This next section is highlighted. Of course, we kind of spoke of this earlier. If a person wants to register as a Democrat or a Republican, they do that here. Now, one thing I want to note, if someone asks you what they should check there, the NAACP is not at liberty to tell any registrants which party they should register for. We can get in trouble for that. We are nonpartisan. We need to maintain that stance. Please, by all means, do not tell them which one they should choose, that it's their choice and they must make that choice on their own. One way that you can help individuals, though, if they're unfamiliar with Democratic Party and Republican Party, you can pose questions like so or make statements like so. If the person agrees with the ideology and political philosophy of a Barack Obama is a Democrat, and if you want to align with that philosophy, you can register as a Democrat and with the Democratic Party. In contrast, if the person identifies with the political views and philosophies of a Donald Trump is a Republican, and to align with that philosophy, they can register with the Republican Party. If they're on the fence, not sure, if they want to be an independent, if they are undecided, they can check other, and they can write in either the name of a party they're familiar with that's not listed, or just say independent altogether. Last but not least, you want to make sure that they sign and date this. That is very important. Without a signature and a date, this card will not be processed. You see some witness by boxes under there. The only reasons why those are there is in the event that a person who is being registered, they can't fill it out themselves, or maybe they need to make a mark because there's an injury with their hands or a disability or something of that nature. You can fill out this card for them. They would have to make a mark there, like an X or something of that nature. But if that is the case, it is very important that at least 2 people witness that. And so they would write in their witness, write in a signature below. So materials needed. Obviously, you'll need voter registration cards. You can get that from the county clerk's office, but you could also get that from the NAACP if you reach out to us. Our contact information is here later in this video. If at all possible, when you are giving out cards, highlight them if possible. The same way that you saw as we had things highlighted by a highlighter, highlight those cards. For one reason, it makes it much easier for those individuals who are filling out the card. It guides them and they know what they need to fill out. Secondly, it makes things much easier for the persons who are reviewing the cards. You can easily glance through there and know if things were filled out appropriately. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have pens, not pencils, but pens to fill out these registration cards. Important. More important, that the pens work. Nothing worse than having a fistful of pens and only 2 pens work. Test your pens before you go out and purchase pens if necessary. Note that you want to use black or blue ink. Signage, very important. As said before, you want people to know why you're there, what you're there for. Also, there's clipboards. You want to provide clipboards in the event that you're at a table. Maybe your table, you have a good problem. Your table gets crowded and there's not enough room for everybody to fill out the voter registration cards on a table or being hunched over and things of that nature. If you have clipboards, it makes your life much easier. You can even go to people and walk up on them and have them fill it out right there directly. One trick of the trade that I will offer, you can combine signage and clipboards. If you have a clipboard, on the back of the clipboard, print out on a piece of paper, register to vote or a voter registration drive, something of that nature, tape it on the back of a clipboard. You're walking around with a quickly improvised sign. There are going to be common questions, statements. This more so goes into the information, providing voter information to individuals. People may have questions or may make statements. They'll say that they just moved. Where do they vote? There are websites that I'm going to provide that will help you, that you can share with that person, or you can go to with them to these websites. If you have a cell phone or a tablet with you, you can figure out this information and help people figure this out. People may mention that their driver's license address is different. Again, you want to encourage them to update their address on their driver's license prior to going to the poll to make sure that there's no issues at the polling place. People may ask if they can change their party affiliation. We just covered that by looking at the card. You can direct them very clearly to how they do that. Some people ask if how do they fill out an absentee ballot? Where do they get an absentee ballot? How that whole process works. You don't have to know all the nuances of how that works, but you can redirect them to a website and I will show you where they can figure that out to help them with that. They may be students, they may have children who are students, things of that nature who they know are registered, but they will not be present or in Jefferson County to actually vote. Some people think they're voted, they're registered, or not sure that they're registered. They want to make sure if they're registered. There's a way to do that online to confirm a person's registration. Also, you can register to vote online. So in the event that they say, I'm registered, but I have a family member or a friend that I want to make sure gets registered, they may ask you for cards. It might be more appropriate to give them the opportunity to go register online, give them that opportunity. It might be much easier, and there's websites we can give you for that as well. Speaking of those websites, here are the websites in which you can get a great deal, an abundance of information. One would be our own website, www.naacplou.org. Going to that site, there's a great deal of information that the Louisville branch provides in regards to voter education and voter information. You can go to govotekentucky.com. Very straightforward. It's for the state, brought to us by the state, where individuals can go register to vote and also find out important voter information. Also, last but definitely not least, elections.jeffersoncountyclerk.org. You can go to this website and I will show you these websites right now. What we have before us is the NAACP Louisville Branch website. If you come to this site at naacplou.org, you can go to the voter info tab, the voting info tab. Within here, if you want to register someone to vote, feel free to fill out this form. And upon submitting this, this will forward you to the state site where you can complete your online voter registration. So please, by all means, if you want to, you can direct people to our website. Also here, we have links so that people can figure out their sample ballots, also find their polling location if they want to know where they can vote. We'll be providing information in regards to voter registration cards, if they have questions about how to fill them out. This is a very important link I want to point out here. Application for restoration of civil rights. In the event that you ask someone if they're registered to vote and they say that they are not allowed to vote because they are a felony, If they're interested, you can redirect individuals to this website where they can fill out the application for restoring their voting rights. And we have some instructions around that as well. Also, from this site, shameless plug, if you're interested in volunteering or you know people who are interested in volunteering, please feel free to come here, get in contact with us. Our phone number is 776-7608. You can also fill out this form and we'll be in touch with you with any opportunities. One of the other websites that we mentioned was govotekentucky.com. When you go to govotekentucky.com, you will get to this state voter information portal. There's a lot of great information here. What I do love here is that this website will show you the registration deadline, also the upcoming election. Knowing these dates are crucial because you'll have to know when you need to turn in those cards for the registration deadline. You can also register online here, update your registration, review your registration. There's information for individuals who are going to be voting overseas or in the military. If you want to know where your voting location is, you can also figure that out here as well. And you can get your sample ballots amongst other information. The Jefferson County Clerk's Office, also a good source of information. There is a tab here for voter info, and from here you can find out where you're supposed to vote. You can also figure out more information on absentee voting here, and you can also register to vote from here as well. So one thing I will recommend, if you do have any signage, you can also make it very available for, or make it easy for people. You can put some of these websites right there on your signage. That way people can take a picture with their cell phone, something of that nature, and keep moving if they wanted to get more information. There's a couple of things we want to warn you of to avoid some particular pitfalls. What not to do: do not endorse any candidates. As stated before, the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization. We run a risk of violations, especially to our tax status, if we are found as an organization in any shape, form, or fashion endorsing a candidate or promoting votes of a very particular candidate. We have to be very careful of that. We cannot recommend a political party. If you are doing a voter registration drive on behalf of the NAACP, by all means do not endorse a candidate, and also do not state that somebody should be registering as a Republican or a Democrat. Please. It is very important to not argue about political stances. There's going to be individuals who may ask you questions in regards to politics, how you feel about abortion, or they may ask you how you feel about a recent law that's passed at a state level. They may ask you about any questions about ICE and immigration, about you name it, that whatever may be a political hot point at that moment. Try to avoid going too far in these conversations. Sometimes people may express something you may not agree with. They may ask you for your political stance. It's very important that you announce that you are strictly just registering people to vote. That's pretty much it. That is one of your primary goals. Please don't argue with individuals. More importantly, just don't argue, period. If someone's not registered, or they can't register, or they refuse to register, or they don't agree, your goal is to register people to vote. Keep it moving. Offer, thank them for their time, and keep pushing your agenda to register as many people as possible. In terms of turning in registration cards, once your event is done or you have cards to be filled out, it is very important to turn in cards before a deadline if you're near a deadline. Very important. The reason why, in the event that someone fills out a card and they hand it to us on behalf of NAACP and we do not turn that card in, we can get in trouble for that. You need to make sure that, I think that may even be a federal offense if you're holding cards for registration. It's very important that those get turned in. If you're doing it on behalf of NAACP, by all means, you can reach out to us and turn them into us, and we'll make sure that they get in before the deadline. Of course, be thoughtful of the deadline and that contact window between, to make sure that we can all make sure that we get those cards in before the deadline. Feel free to call us at 776-7608. If we are not available, or if you don't want to turn them in directly to the NAACP, by all means, you can turn those cards into the closest, your nearest county clerk's office. I just want to repeat the objectives one more time. The objective of any of these voter registration drives, make sure you register people to vote. That is the key objective. But while you're at it, you can encourage people to vote, and you can also provide some voter information. Thank you very much.